Duolingo has always been at the forefront of using AI for personalized learning, right? Now, with the advent of generative AI and also so many newer technologies, where do you see this going?
Yeah, I think for us, it's really about just making education accessible, and that's the biggest thing of how can we keep teaching in ways that are unique and engaging. And one of our biggest things, right, is gamifying learning, and we've gone from language learning to math now to music. So I think for us, it's just constantly figuring out ways to just make it more accessible.
And more interesting as well, right? I have to touch upon the fact that when you started TikTok, the followers you had on TikTok were at about 50,000, and now you're at 16 million, and it's gone viral. Everybody talks about it. Duolingo has broken the internet on that front. So take us through what your strategy was. What was the thinking behind this?
Yeah, I think for us, the biggest thing was how do we be entertaining? And for us, we were looking at it more of Duo's a creator versus a brand. How would a creator show up in this space? And so we started just creating content that I would want to consume, or anyone who's just watching would want to consume. And our biggest competitors were not other language learning apps. It was what takes our attention. And so we really built this whole strategy of Duo being a creator himself and kind of being a form of satire that was making fun of the internet and doing trends that you or I would do, but now an owl's doing it. And how do you personify something that seems so difficult sometimes? Learning a language is hard, and our job is just to make it fun. So we do that through different avenues of just interacting with culture.
Was it, when you came up with this idea, was it difficult sort of asking the management or telling them about, this is what we need to do to sort of break the internet? How did you go about sort of convincing people that this is what we need to do?
Yeah, I think it's part of our DNA too. Duolingo is also about testing and learning and just putting your best foot out there. And I feel very lucky where it wasn't this big uphill battle to convince. Something I always say is when you hire an engineer, you expect them to code. So when you hire a social media manager, they expect us to create good social content. And we really try to create that environment of what do we need to do to have the maximum impact? And when we kind of sold the strategy of Duo being a creator, it wasn't seen as an ordinary, we're a quirky brand, we have silly sentences, we do silly things. So they're let's see where it goes, and started small, and we just kept iterating.
That's amazing because, now it's literally broken the internet. And I have to ask, I know that, your campaign is still running, but every time anybody types Duolingo on the internet, the first thing that comes about is RIP Duo. What is this? What is happening?
Yes, so the Duolingo bird is currently dead. It's been a tough week. It's actually connected to our app icon change. So our app icon changes every maybe 6 months to something new, and so we just try to have more innovative and fun campaigns around it that just get people talking and excited, and this is just one of those things.
This is just one of those things. We are here at the conference and everything is about, AI and innovation. If you could sort of tell us how you bring AI and innovation into your social media strategy to sort of make it more exciting and reach more consumers. So how are you using AI right now?
Yeah, I think for us, a lot of it is about figuring out what are ways that AI can make it more easy and simple for us. So I would say at this point, we still film all of our stuff in-house. We have our creatives create the different art direction for it, but it's maybe we need joke punch-ups, or we need something to help us be is this funny, is this not funny, what are different ways that I can write this or talk about this? And I think AI really helps us have that hat on of just thinking differently and not being exactly how Zari would approach it, but how would a middle-aged woman from Wisconsin approach this, or so on and so forth. So getting those different personas to bring it to life in our content has been really awesome.
Yeah, it helps you also reach a larger audience. And speaking about a larger audience, Duolingo has a large presence in India, right? And in fact, it's one of your largest English learning people, right?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to understand, you've always had a social media first strategy out here to try to, make people understand that Duolingo exists and, they can use it and this is what you can do with it. So if you could sort of throw light on the strategy that you'll have for India and markets that aren't the US.
Yeah, so we have country marketing managers around the world, and one of our amazing Indian country marketing managers runs the India account. And we always say his strategy obviously lives on Instagram and YouTube Shorts, but he also really thrives on engaging creators. And so I think for us, what we've really seen from our India markets are just how creators are so essential and crucial to building out our brand and creating genuine connection. And also these English learning, it's so huge there. So how do we figure out ways to have fun course launches or use people to engage in different ways throughout the different cultures there? And so I think we recently just had a Tamil launch. So stuff like that has been really fun. And I think creators are at the core of our India strategy for sure.
So creators are at the core of it. But do you think these strategies change from country to country? Because, it's so much. It's very different how people approach social media in various countries, right?
Yeah.
So how is it that y'all? What are the challenges that y'all sort of face while y'all are doing this?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like the cultural nuance. Like, for example, like we might have one campaign in the U.S. that might not resonate in India at all, or
yeah.
vice versa. So how do we figure out a ways to keep our mission and our brand still the same, but kind of relate to different cultural moments?
Right.
So I think even within India too, it's such a diverse country. Even that is like its own thing of like, how are we going to interact with different regions when we're launching different courses? So I think the challenge is like, how do we keep a global narrative? Like, even with Dead Duo, like, the duos died multiple
Dead
different
duo.
ways, right? And
Yeah.
so, like, these are all different things that we have to think about of how do we respect cultures, but also make them feel heard and listened to while still telling our global brand narrative.
Absolutely. And, you know, as a social media manager, where do you see the intersection of AI, social media, and the brand coming into play? What's the future looking
Yeah.
like?
I think a lot of it is figuring out how to create content fast and effectively. And I think right now at like Duolingo, I think our biggest secret sauce is that we're just able to have in-house creators that get content out there and do it fast. Like we're not waiting for different agencies. We're not waiting for crazy approvals internally. We constantly are just generating and approving our own content. So I think AI kind of helps us think about it differently in a way that like, yes, this is our priority, but how do we keep pushing the envelope with creation? So I would say, again, like AI really helps us with like joke punch-ups or small things that you don't realize that are part of this process that needs to happen to just get content out there.
And, you know, when it comes to social media, AI, are there any concerns about safety and data privacy? So how do you all tackle that at, you know, Duolingo?
Yeah, of course. I think that always is important to us. I think for us, we really care about our learners and keeping them obviously secure. I would say that a lot of it is just, even when it comes to social, just figuring out how to engage with the community and what they're saying and like a way that makes them feel heard and listened to and not exploited.
Right.
And I think that's just the core of Duo too, is we very much are responsive in conversation with what our community wants, and we just kind of give it back to them.
So always giving the community what it wants. All right, Zaria, thank you so much for taking time out and
Thank
being here
you.
with us in Doha.
Well, on that note, it's time for us to head into a short break, but don't go anywhere as we continue with our coverage from Web Summit Qatar 2025.